Welcome back to One Consciousness. This week, before I go into the message from one of my horses, I just wanted to go back to October 2018. So, in October 2018, I was in the field that evening with one of my horses, and as the sun was going down, she started to walk in circles around me, round and round and round, to the point where I'm thinking, okay, something's going on, but I'm not too sure what. Then she walked in front of me and stood in front of the direction of the sun and turned to me as if to say, look at the sun. And then I heard the messages coming from her about the significance. And what I could see that she was showing me were like rays coming out of the sun and coming in to each of our bodies, to any living being. So whether it's humanity, other animals, whether it's trees, plants, any other living being, and possibly also the inanimate ones, the rays were coming in and they were upgrading our DNA. And at the time, that seemed very much out there. I hadn't heard anyone talking about anything like that at that point. And it was one of those things where anyone who does this type of work with your animals, where they're giving you esoteric theories, they're prophesying what's going to be happening in the future, predicting for other people, some things you just decide at the time you're going to keep them to yourself. Just for that moment. But going over time and everything that had happened at that point, I knew absolutely that what she was showing me was of huge significance. Now, fast forward obviously several years, and now it seems like everybody's talking about solar flares and upgrading our bodies. And it's seen like an everyday phenomenon now, which it is, because we have lots of different solar flares coming in most days now. And I think over this past weekend, there was something like 23 M class and I think C class as well. So now it's become something that's very much talked about in many, many different circles. So, fast forwarding on to her message for this week. It may well be that some of this again seems far-fetched for this particular time, but I don't think it's going to be long before everybody starts talking about the subjects that she's covering today. So I would love to hear from anybody else who's doing this type of work. Any other messages you'd like to share below, then please them. The more, the merrier. And I would love to see where the synchronicities are, where the messages are all coming from the horses that are all very, very similar in nature. It would be an absolute dream to see those from you. So, moving forward then to her message for this week. She started by giving a history lesson. So she was talking about both the Incas and the Aztecs and how they were both used to having very bloody wars. Then peace ensued like at no other time. So 100 to 200 years of peace. So it was an experiment to see how they got on. The Incas wanted to be in charge, but the Aztecs had the philosophies. They were apart anyway because of distance, but they were apart anyway to try to keep the peace. Their philosophies wouldn't have merged together because they couldn't. So what could they do? And is that really peace if you can't live side by side? So this is where we find ourselves today, totally strewn apart now with war and infighting. This wasn't the way it was meant to be, she says. The horses wanted peace, which is their natural birthright. You have to feel peace in your heart for there to be peace externally. So many at the moment don't have peace in their hearts. Confusion reigns. Confusion about the direction of society, the laws, the food crisis, meaning unhealthy foods being produced. There are so many issues, countless issues, but it is all noise. The problem is fear surrounds us, not love. So the incoming solar flares will flush out the fear as our DNA is upgraded, much to the relief of the horses, she says. They want peace for us so that we can all live together in harmony. Fear gives rise to so much illness, which spreads not just amongst humans, but to all our animal friends too. The upcoming constellation of Gemini is going to be the game changer. The duality has been placed there for a reason, and we need to understand both sides. It gives us perspective. It also means we fall into the quagmire in between. Sometimes we fall from such a great height. But Jupiter moving into Gemini will extinguish this duality at this particular time, and the violet flame will come in and extinguish it. Will this be a parting of the sky? It won't be as directive as that this time, but the cellular systems will be felt on Earth. Gemini is preparing to move, to shuffle, to intertwine the energies of the Earth with the constellations. And so as the polar shift's axis takes place, so too does the shifting of the Earth's crust, which in turn will affect the skies above and the parting of the suns. The parting of the suns. Yes, she doesn't seem to want to say anything more about that for the moment. You will see, she says. As the axis tips, the suns will part. The ionosphere will cause that. The light caused by the sun splitting will cause temporary blindness, as in, do not look at the sun, as this phenomena and transformation takes place. It feels as though the earth is about to crack open, to reveal what the inner earth is inside. Are we going to meet the inhabitants? She smiles and says, you are already. Imagine it splitting apart, and both sides will freely be able to merge their lives together. It seems impossible to imagine right now. Different civilizations being kept apart for eons, and now to meet again. For some reason, there doesn't seem to be too many people on Earth as this happens. But the inner Earth will venture out onto the Earth to explore. Why is all this happening? Because the veil is being taken down, or has come down, which means that everyone will have access or be able to see everyone else. Maybe Earth will be the new meeting place for all of inner Earth plus the galactic races, all meeting here together. There seems to be so much joy, like a reunion after so many millennia. But we won't feel strange to each other. There will be commonality, a knowing, a remembering of each other. And with that, there'll be so much emotion, an outpouring of love, she says. And that moment will mark the beginnings of the brand new civilization, never before seen on Earth. The hybrid of the inner Earth and the Galactics, who have all been biding their time for this day. It's not too far away in terms of time. What I don't understand is why there seems to be so few people actually on Earth, when and where this event happens. The causation needs to occur, she says. Some chemical reaction that feels as though it could turn many of humanity into energy particles in a split second, to be reformulated elsewhere. How fragile all of life appears to be at this point, in its current form.